It's Binjang 91.5, and it's time for Tech Talk this afternoon with Mathew Dickerson. I'm Tony Graham. Good afternoon, Matthew.
Hey, good afternoon, Tony. Great to chat about technology again.
Now, our first topic is about solar energy. A mega solar plant is using 170,000 mirrors to generate heat for electricity. So, take us through that.
Yeah, as you know, you've got some solar plants around Wellington, both proposed and under construction. So solar power is a great way to try and generate some renewable electricity. And we know the traditional model at the moment is you put some solar panels out, they receive electricity, they receive the sun, they turn that into electricity, and away you go. But there are ways that they're producing electricity from solar that are much larger scale. And in Ivanpah, there's a solar facility, as you said, 170,000 mirrors. And instead of just using silicon on a sheet and basically generating electricity from that, what these do is they actually direct that sun's power to a central component where they actually heat up water, turn it into steam, and then drive turbines. Now, this is spread out over 14 square kilometres. So you can just imagine the images of that. They look quite impressive when you see them. And those 14 square kilometres produce enough power to power 140,000 homes. So this is quite incredible. But again, I think we'll see more and more of this. This is in the middle of America. We've got lots of space around Australia that we could produce a facility like this. Obviously, the biggest issue is getting it from where you produce the power to where the power is needed. That's the transmission losses that are there. But this particular facility, they use devices called heliostats. So I call them mirrors, but they're called heliostats. And what they do effectively is they follow the sun so that they keep directing where the sun's coming from to direct the actual sun's energy to that central point and then heat up those boilers. So quite creative, quite innovative in the way they produce it. Not our traditional model of a solar plant. But again, I can see more and more of this sort of thing happening. And if you can start producing plants like this that power 140,000 homes, it doesn't take a lot of imagination to get to the point where you can see a lot of our power being produced by renewables.
And I think they're looking at developing storage mechanisms with that too, aren't they?
We have talked before about some of the storage mechanisms in place. Obviously, pumped hydro is a really important part of Australia's power makeup at the moment. We've got about 4% of our power with pumped hydro, but they also are doing things, pumped hydro sounds great, but when you go to somewhere like a Nyngan or a Nevertire where there are solar plants, there's not a lot of dams around there, not a lot of hills to be able to pump water up and down a hill. So you've got facilities being made where they're lifting and dropping large concrete blocks, for example, to store that energy for reproducing overnight. So again, people are coming up with all sorts of creative, innovative ways to try and get us away from relying on coal as we do so much now.
Yeah. We're getting on to our next topic, Matthew. Self-cleaning water bottles are producing the tastiest tap water.
So I get a hard time from my wife, Tony. When I ride my push bike, I use a camelback. So it's just a water reservoir that sits on my back and then has a convenient spout for me to drink from. And I use it each day and I fill it up and empty it out and fill it up and empty it out. My wife says, do I ever wash it? And I kind of think, well, no, I'm washing it by water going through it each day, but she's a bit disgusted by that. But water bottles are another thing that many people use. Well, they put water in them and they drink from them and they fill them up and they drink from them and they don't often clean them out. And they're a bit of a pain to clean, to be honest. You go and get a scrubber inside them and you scrub that up and down, or you put them in the dishwasher. So many people just use them without that. But there are now some water bottles that are using UV to actually clean them. So we're not talking about cleaning out dirt and grunge and grime that gets in them, but we're talking about getting rid of bacteria, getting rid of some of those things that you can't see in there. And so there are many of these out now, and I actually just went searching for them last night to find a few. I found 3 convenient ones that basically use the lid or use parts of the water bottle to produce some UV, and that will basically keep your water bottle free of germs, free of bacteria. I think the idea is absolutely brilliant. Typically you'll charge up the water bottle because it uses power obviously, but that'll last for a month, maybe even 2 months for some of them that I found. And so really you remove that need to be worrying about trying to clean them out all the time. They claim to have, depending on whether you go for a quick clean or a long clean, anywhere between 99.9% and up to 99.99996% I found in terms of the amount of germs and bacteria they'll get rid of. So using technology in a different way, but I thought this was quite clever.
Yes, well, I guess you're going to try that, aren't you?
Well, I must admit, I looked at it there and I thought, if only they made one of these in a camelback, then I could keep my wife happy that my camelback was vaguely clean and keep going and doing what I do. But I didn't find one for camelback at this stage.
Yeah. Hmm. Now, Mark Zuckerberg has launched a Facebook shop for 160 million small businesses, as if though we didn't have enough bombardment from ads from businesses when we're looking up these sorts of things.
It's really a big launch from Facebook. They obviously make changes and they make purchases from time to time. But this latest venture is a big deal for Facebook. Obviously, there are lots of ways to go and set up and sell things online. There are lots of organisations out there that specialise in that. But Facebook, because of its sheer mass of users, 1.3 billion or thereabouts in terms of number of users, it really wanted to get into this space. And of course, COVID-19 has pushed all of this development through. In fact, I saw a quote from someone else recently in the technology game that said what COVID-19 has done is compressed 2 years worth of technology development into about 2 months. And I think this is another one of those examples where, sure, they had plans at some point to do it, but because so many organisations needed to be online and needed to change their business model very quickly, Facebook, don't feel too sorry for them, but they didn't want to miss out on that potential revenue there. So they've set up a Facebook page, they've set up a shops page. And the idea obviously is to make it as easy as possible, which all of the various online selling sites talk about, make it as easy as possible for mums and dads, businesses, or any basic business you've got to get a shop on Facebook and start selling things basically straight away. Many businesses have realised the importance of Facebook in terms of having some followers and being able to post things to talk about what they've got. Having their shop on that platform, I suppose, is the next logical step, and it's there, it's ready to go, and people will find it easy to use, and I'm sure they'll have huge success with it.
Yes, I'm sure they will. And you've been listening to Tech Talk with Mathew Dickerson on Binjang 91.5, and I'm your host, Tony Graham. Stay tuned.
Talk to you next week again, Tony. Sorry.
Yes, Matthew. Stay tuned next week, next Tuesday, at 3:40 a.m. and 10:40 p.m. No, it's the other way around, isn't it? Stay tuned. Stay tuned next Tuesday. Stay tuned next Tuesday at 10:40 a.m. and 3:40 p.m. for the next edition. And it's back to the great music and community information on Binjang.